Welcome back to the Patrick Lane Show, where we talk about personal finance, investing, and real estate. And what is going on with AMC today? I mean, it's interesting, I would say, that the CEO came out today and, reaffirmed what shareholders already knew, that they're going to sell or try to sell 500 million new shares. So before we get into that, though, do me a favor, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell so that we can grow the channel and we can push this video out to more people who may be interested in hearing about AMC. We really appreciate your help. This morning on CNBC, Adam Aron, the CEO of AMC, was conducting an interview. And during the interview, one of the things that he mentioned after saying that he really was supportive of retail investors and the Reddit Wall Street Bets community, and that he really felt like the Wall Street Bets community and retail investors had stepped in and saved AMC from bankruptcy. And his view was that those investors, the retail investors, were loyal customers of AMC. They had, were wanting to see movies there, did not want to see a company that, frankly, is a 100-year-old company be shorted to death by hedge funds. And that's exactly what was happening. And that's, what he characterized it as well. He said that the shorts came in and were shorting this stock and putting out negative news and just absolutely trying to drive it into the ground, drive it into bankruptcy. And as we know, right, if that happens, the shorts would make money, but the company and the investors in the company would lose money because the stock price keeps going down. And eventually, if it goes to bankruptcy, potentially the company just goes away and we all lose our investments. Adam Aron was very complimentary of retail investors, Wall Street Bets, Reddit community, everybody who kind of stepped in, bolstered it, bought the shares when they were at their lowest, helped the share price go up, and made sure that AMC survived all of this turmoil. Now, they've been beat up quite a bit. If you look through 2020, I mean, AMC, as we know, is a theater chain, and they weren't allowed to operate as a business for the last year. So, it's kind of crazy that they really still are in existence as a result of investors like us who took notice and wanted to make sure that AMC survived. He also talked about how he certainly believes that AMC has a bright future. They went over some things regarding streaming and how they're going to compete with streaming services. And for example, last night the new movie Godzilla vs. Kong came out. He said that 250,000 people just in the U.S. were in the movie theater, in an AMC movie theater, and watching that movie last night on a Wednesday. So, we're still, a lot of the country is still closed, and yet, and still there's this hesitancy about getting out and opening up because of what was going on in the past year. But he sees that as a great sign going forward, that people have this pent-up urge to go to the movies, to get out of the house, to go do things for their entertainment. So he's looking at that urge coupled with reopenings as we go forward, coupled with all of the releases that were supposed to happen last year being pushed back to this year. He sees those as good signs for AMC going forward. So then the perplexing part happened. Adam Aron mentioned that they are planning, or they're going to seek approval from shareholders to issue another 500 million shares of AMC stock. And of course, if you're an AMC stockholder, you know that because they filed their 14A disclosure a few weeks back, announcing the upcoming shareholders meeting and the 6 proposals that are on the slate to be voted on. And number one in that list of proposals to be voted on is increasing or issuing 500 million new shares. So here's the issue with that. We've got to talk about share dilution and how it's impacted by issuing new shares. Keeping in mind, as we look back to October of 2020, as of the end of Q3 2020, AMC only had 107 million shares. Now, they had some private equity partners and they had some debt that they were dealing with. But as of the end of Q3, there was only 107 million shares. So they have, coming out of this pandemic, part of their strategy has certainly been to use share issues as a way to raise capital. And they did that in December. They did that in January. And, they've issued shares to buy out some of their private partners. They've issued shares to convert some of the convertible debt into stock ownership. And that's great because it's dropped about $600 billion of debt off of the AMC balance sheet. But the problem is that every time there's more shares issued, our shares as retail investors become just a little bit more diluted, which means they're worth a little bit less. And so if we had, if you had one share back in October when it was 107 shares, and now we're up to, right now today, 450 million shares. That's how many they've issued, right? 343 million shares in that time period. I think I did that math right. 343 million shares from October to now. And so our share power, our share position, our voting rights, our earning rights to those shares, the value of those shares has been diluted by 3 times because we've gone from 107 to 450. And so now what's going to happen? Well, I think it was reflected in the share price as he was talking. He started the interview at 9:33 and they went through several things. It was about 10 minutes long. And by the end of the interview, after he had announced to the world that this 500 million shares could be coming to dilute the shares, guess what happened? AMC share prices dropped and they went steadily down until the interview was over. Now, of course, they've recovered some since then. They were down 6 or 8%, I think, at the most, and then they've bounced back some since then. But I think that's reflective of the general sentiment out there when it comes to share dilution. If there's 450 million shares right now and you own 10 shares of AMC and they issue another 500 million shares, guess what? Your 10 shares now are only worth 5 shares because they've doubled the share number. So it's an interesting proposition and it's an interesting play. Issuing shares has benefited them very much because they were able to raise capital in the middle of a pandemic. They were able to get more investors in the company. They were able to get rid of debt on the balance sheet during this pandemic when their revenues were really zero. And so I understand from their thinking why they want the ability to issue these additional shares. One of the other things they talked about was using it as potential ways to purchase or merger with other companies that aren't able to get out of survive the pandemic. So it's sort of an expansion play as well. But here's the problem. Do we really think that another 500 million shares is going to be a good thing for our individual share value? Now, if that money raised is going to be used toward building and growing the brand of AMC, the business, maybe it is. Maybe it goes from $10 today to $20 to $50 to $100 over the next few years when they issue all those shares. Most of the time, and you can see it just from history back in the fall, when those shares were issued back in the fall and the winter, it dropped by about 36% heading into January. And so there's a feeling that the share dilution is a real issue. I happen to think that the Wall Street bets, the retail investor community is loyal enough to AMC that it's not going to matter a lot. Although I would say from the comments that I'm seeing on Wall Street bets, I don't think many of the retail investors are going to vote for that 500 million new shares. So that may be the break on the new issuance and the dilution. So tell me what you think down below. Do you think 500 million new shares, doubling the amount of shares out there, is a good thing for AMC? Is it going to be good for raising capital? Or do you think the share dilution issue is really going to be a problem that holds back the stock and keeps it from going to the moon like we want it to? Let me know what your thoughts are. If you're an AMC holder, do me a favor and tell me what you think. Are you going to vote yes or no on proposal number 1 to issue the shares. I'd love to know what you think. Do me a favor before we get out of here, smash the like button if you found this video educational or entertaining, and hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next video.